Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Princes of Pauper podcast. I am your host, Andrew Batnich, and joined with me today is the Thorn of the Throne, Josh Worth.
Hello.
How are we doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. I got my Mountain Dew pitch black, so I'm pretty awake.
You are prepared with the darkest of battery acids.
Oh yes, it's my gamer fuel.
When battery acid decays, doesn't it turn kind of white?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand black battery acid.
I don't know either, because like most, even car battery acid turns like that white sort of powder on the outside.
Mhm.
Same thing with like just a normal like double or triple A battery.
Yeah. So last time you and I met to talk, we talked about who we were. We went over that, and then we talked about some challenges and decks that we'd bring to challenges. We'll get into that specifically because that's something that I want to make sure we talk about weekly because, or every time we do this, which will be on a bi-weekly schedule is what it's looking like.
Yep.
But there were two challenges since then, and they have some interesting lists and some good data to look at. But as of right now, what I wanted to go ahead and talk about, because I think this is an interesting discussion, because I'm not quite sure the percentage of people that would be listening to us, exactly how many of them are already invested in Pauper. I think there's actually a chance that a reasonable amount of those players are people that are coming in from outside Pauper and taking a look at it. So I wanted to talk about something that might seem a little weird to some players, which is the Pauper Banned List. And the reason I think that might be a little weird to some players is I think a lot of people will look at a format like Pauper and assume a very low power level.
That's kind of true, but like just like with any format, we have infinite combos, so the power level's got to be at least a little bit, and we have access to counterspell, just very good common cards like Delver, all that fun stuff.
I think one of
So
the most important things to point a player that isn't sure about the Pauper's power level is to just look at existing ban lists and tell me how many of those cards are common legal.
that's also true.
Because there is actually a relatively high quantity of cards on Modern, Legacy, and Vintage Power or restricted and banned lists that are just commons.
Yep, Cloud Post and Treasure Cruise popping up real quick.
Yep, Ponder Preordain for Modern, the Artifact lands, Gush in Legacy.
Yep.
Gitaxian Probe still legal in Pauper. It has some things that other formats don't get to play with, and that's one of the most fun things is getting to play with Gush, getting to play with perfect cantrip mana bases or cantrip decks, all that kind of thing, which is actually something I wanted to discuss, but that's a little bit later. So first, I wanted to go ahead and just go card by card, alphabetical order, the Pauper ban list, why they're here, do you think they're safe to come off? What would have to happen for them to be safe to come off?
Okay.
So now that we kind of know the formula, card number 1, Cloud of Fairies. So for those who are not familiar with Cloud of Fairies, it is 1 and a blue for a 1/1 flying fairy that says when it enters play, you may untap up to 2 target lands, and it has cycling for 2 colorless. Why is Cloud of Fairies on the ban list, Josh?
Mostly because it was a draw engine for Storm, if I remember correctly, because it also generated you more mana because they normally used some bounce lands and basically netted mana off of playing Cloud of Fairies.
Mm-hmm. You have the last week or the last podcast, we talked about the blue-white splash whatever color familiars deck, like Sunscape Familiar, Nightscape Familiar. When you're playing with these cards, bounce lands and Cloud of Fairies, this becomes 1 mana make 4 mana.
Yeah.
And then when you start integrating cards like Ghostly Flicker, that's where it got really degenerate. And while this wasn't 100% of the meta when it was part of the MTGO player base. That is in part to the fact that it is extremely tedious to perform those combos on Magic Online.
Yeah.
Like, I guarantee you, if Pauper was seeing paper tournament play at that time, that those tournaments are just completely overrun by Cloud of Fairy decks.
I would imagine so, because I think Cloud of Fairies. I'm trying to do like a kind of a weird comparison. Cloud of Fairies and Second Sunrise, almost unplayable online, but the reason they're banned, like on paper, is because A, they take too long. Two, they just become a completely legitimate strategy that overtakes the meta a little bit.
And they're kind of these combo strategies that reward players that put a lot of time into it, and the players that don't know like anything about what's going on are lost, don't know why they're losing.
Yeah.
It's less so with Cloud of Fairies. It's kind of a little face value to tell, oh, he's getting infinite mana with this 3-card combo. But there was a different deck that played Cloud of Fairies. It wasn't just combo decks. Delver also played Cloud of Fairies. And when it was banned, that's when players started looking at Fairy Miscreant.
Okay, yeah, because this one basically made it so you get a free fairy for Spell Stutter Sprite to counter bigger stuff too.
Yep, and you could pick it up with Ninja and cycle it.
Yep, that's a very good card advantage engine.
But the primary play pattern, or a common play pattern for Mono Blue Delver, would have been turn 1 Delver or cantrip into turn 2 Cloud, hold up Spell Stutter Sprite. And now, even if you're on the draw, you get to counter something with Spell Stutter Sprite that matters.
Gross.
Which is usually the drawback of a card like Spell Stutter Sprite.
Yeah.
But alright, so that kind of understands why Cloud of Fairy is on the ban list. Do you think this card is safe to play in Pauper anymore?
I don't think so, because Izzet Delver is already a huge percentage of the format, even Mono Blue Delver, and this would make it, I would say, at least a quarter, maybe 50% of the format if it came off, because of just the sheer amount of power level that it gives it.
It seems anemic, the amount of power level that a card like Cloud of Fairies gives, but it is a lot. And not only the Delver side, but we already see these. I see Goldfishes now calling it blue-white or Jeskai Control, but no, that is the Sunscape Familiar, Nightscape Familiar decks, and those are already showing up without like a hard combo engine, just a soft combo, and those are good enough right now. And if we have full combo, I think it's just too far.
Oh yeah.
Moving on, we get to Cloudpost, one of my favorite cards. I loved playing Cloudpost in Legacy. I loved playing it in Pauper, and I loved playing it in Modern for the 2 weeks I got to do that. I like Cloudpost just as a card because of how inevitable your decks are when you play it. But why is this card banned, Josh?
Lots of mana.
But Tron's legal.
You're correct, but that requires you finding 3 lands and not having, 2, or it grows exponentially with the amount of locust lands you have.
And yeah, it's weird that both Cloudpost and Glimmerpost are both commons. It's a very interesting thing. I understand it from like a limited standpoint, because if you want these lands to be good and limited, they have to be common.
Right.
But just like the power level, being able to go from 1 to 4 to 9 to...
Yeah, it ramps even harder than Tron does. And plus, if you run Glimmerpost, you get to gain more life, which buys you more time to do stuff.
If people are playing Radiant Fountain, and that card looks ridiculously cute when people are getting to play Glimmerpost Cloudpost.
Exactly.
Do you remember, did you play any during Cloudpost, Pauper?
I did not, but I got to play with it in No Ban Modern and in Legacy.
Okay.
No Ban Modern, it felt great.
So for Cloudpost in Pauper, there was this period of time where one of the best decks was Blue-Red Control, and its primary win condition was 4 Ulamog's Crusher, which it got to justify by just playing a playset of Cloud Post and a playset of Glimmer Post.
That seems fun.
It's like you got to play those 8 colorless lands and then just a bunch of cantrips and removal spells and then Olamok's Closure.
That's cool.
It was tough. It was a tough format.
Any deck can have big mana.
Yeah, it was just absolutely ridiculous. It's weird though because there aren't a ton of crazy payoffs for it, but Cloud Post was also legal when Cloud of Fairies was legal.
Alright.
And I believe another card that we'll be talking about was also legal, which is Temporal Fissure.
Now, I gotta remember what that one does.
Well, we'll get there. So yeah, Cloud Post. I'm not even going to bother asking the last question, which is this safe to come back? Because the answer is no. It is too powerful for Modern. It's too powerful for Pauper. Because it just gives decks inevitability. And that inevitability is bad for the ability for control decks to exist.
That's true.
So moving on from Cloud Post, we come to Cranial Plating, which I'm sure most people know what a Cranial Plating is.
Yep.
But just in case, 2 mana artifact, equipment. You can pay either 1 to equip it, or black to equip it at instant speed. And it gains +1/+0 for each artifact you control. Why is this card on the ban list, Josh? Has this card ever been legal in a Pauper? Was it an initial ban?
I honestly don't know. Probably was because Affinity is too strong. And I also forget how this interaction works, but can't you attach a Cranial Plating to a creature and then fling it and it deals the Cranial Plating damage?
Correct. Because fling, like most cards like that, check the most recent power toughness of the creature.
Right. Yeah, that's really gross. I don't want to attach it to a Mirror Enforcer and just, die.
The Cranial... So, when you look at Pauper Affinity, it doesn't look like Modern Affinity. Modern Affinity is like Signal Pests and Ornithopters, Mem-Knights, all these like 1-drop Springleaf Drum, all these cheap things, and then a couple powerful cards like Master of Ethereum, Arcbound Ravager, or Cranial Plating. Pauper Affinity, on the other hand, gets to play with its artifact lands, therefore it actually plays cards that use the keyword Affinity.
Yep.
And Pauper Affinity is more a bunch of 4/4s trying to deal damage to you in chunks of 4.
Yeah, and it applies so much pressure. It's ridiculous. And if you unban Cranial Plating, that pressure becomes almost like turn maybe 3 kill, turn 2 kill.
The deck looks a lot different because Ornithopter is a common, I believe. So you're probably playing Ornithopter. You sadly don't get to Mem-Knight them. But yeah, you're on Ornithopter and Cranial Plating, and you're probably on cards like Vault Scourge, which doesn't get any play in Pauper because there's no ways to make it stronger than a 1/1.
Yep.
But yeah, again, not even really going to bother. This card is not safe to take off the ban list. Please never take this card off this ban list.
I would be very sad, but my buddy Lance would be very happy.
I mean, 4 of Gorilla Shaman main deck?
Probably. I would let's do it. Yeah, I'd do it.
So moving on from Cranial Plating, we get to Empty the Warrens, which is another card most people should be familiar with. 3 and a red sorcery, create 2 1/1 goblins, storm. Why is this card on the ban list? This Pauper, you can't storm.
Yes, you can. Lies and slander.
Did you get to play during Pauper Storm?
No, thank God. I hate storm. I hate facing storm in every format. I get salty.
Do you know anything about the mana bases of Pauper Storm?
No, but I'm presuming it runs just. It's like black-red storm with blue splash.
It's 5-color storm.
What?
Or it's Grixis Prime, and it played all of the lands that ETB tapped, but you can sack them for 2 colored mana.
Okay.
So you're on like 12 of those, 4 Lotus Petal, and then Pauper has Rite of Flame and Ideas Unbound, Seething Song, Pyretic Ritual, Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual. You have so much mana, so much card draw. You
A
had
lot of those are
Gitaxian
banned in
Probe.
Modern.
Yeah, you have a lot of cards that are banned in Modern, and you got to do Empty the Warrens and do stuff like the Kicked Bushwhacker builds of Empty the Warrens, or the full all-in Ideas Unbound Grape Shot builds. And I'll kind of pair Grape Shot in with Empty the Warrens here, because they're kind of the same card in a sense. Grape Shot, 1 and a red, deal a damage to target creature or player, storm. And the storm decks were probably the hardest of all the storm decks to play, looking at any different format in Pauper, because cards like Ideas Unbound and trying to figure out your best way to get to cards. If you don't have access to a card like Past in Flames, you don't have LED Infernal Tutor, you have to naturally draw your storm pieces.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of, I had a brew at one point that I thought was really fun. It was a storm deck. It was Blister Coil Weird Storm, and it ran on Ideas Abound and stuff.
Was it like the Paradise Mantle Blister Coil Weird deck?
Yes, it was. And
I remember that.
And it ran the Cerulean Wisps and the Aphotic Wisps. Those are common too, aren't they? The Wisps?
I'm pretty sure the Wisps are common. It's alright, you just need a downgrade on both Blister Coil Weird and Paradise Mantle and you're set.
Oh yeah, let's go.
But yeah, Empty the Warren's Grape Shot, again, no chance. Please do not bring these cards into this format. It was a miserable time. I'm so glad that there is I think there's 2 cards legal with the keyword Storm, and neither of them kill me. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of them's what, Reaping the Graves?
Reaping the Graves, which is one of my pet cards in Pauper, because it is like the control Mirror Breaker, because you get into counter spell war, and then you're just like, and pick all my creatures up. But alright, Empty the Warren's Grape Shot, no, please. It's called the Storm Scale for a reason. Frantic Search. 2 and a blue, instant. Draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards, untap 3 lands. Is this card... why do you think this card's on the ban list, Josh?
It's basically an instant speed version of Compulsive Research.
Close. It's more Faithful Saluting, because it doesn't replace itself.
Yeah, and you can't discard a land to, like, not discard 2. But, you also just generate mana off of it with any bounce land.
Yep.
Again.
It was card filtering and mana ramp for the familiar bounce land decks. It played, I believe it was banned at the same time Cloud of Fairies was banned. Don't quote me on that. Yes, they were definitely in the format together. No, that deck was too good.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
But yeah, Frantic Search is a surprisingly powerful card. This is the only format it really gets any play in, or got any play in, other than like Urza's Legacy Standard, where you could untap Tolarian Academy with it. But
ew.
But no, it is card disadvantage, but it is a mana advantage in these decks to get to play bounce lands, Tron lands, Cloud Post lands, whatever the hell you want to do with it.
Yeah.
Is this card safe?
It's very close to being safe, I think.
That's interesting. I can understand why. It being card disadvantage makes it a little awkward. Like chaining these as just plus mana is not going to be plus cards. But it can do some really broken things. Do you want to give like a Tron player access to this?
I don't think it would completely make the deck busted, but it would definitely give it another edge.
Consider it's plus 4 mana for a Rolling Thunder turn.
Well, depending upon their draws, like it gains them a turn essentially.
Yeah.
Like they do it a turn earlier than they normally would.
And I mean, sometimes that can help. It also digs them closer to those, and Rainbowtron, as Goldfish is now calling it, is pretty good at keeping a stock hand. So I'm not sure how safe it would be for a deck like that, but there's a discussion
Yeah, there's definitely worth like testing over. You know what I mean?
behind it.
See if it's absolutely like the nuts or not.
So
See how it changes the deck.
after Frantic Search, we've already talked about Grape Shot, and then we have Invigorate. 2 and a green, instant. Target creature gets +4/+4 until end of turn. If you control a forest, you may give your opponent 3 life to cast it for free. Why is this on the ban list?
Probably because Infect was stupid, and also like, is it Blitz? Well, not is it Blitz. It would be like Team or Blitz at that point,
It'd be
and
really
like
hard to have basic forest for that deck.
that's also true. I was just
Um,
thinking of like combo decks that could like benefit from it,
I,
and maybe Mono Green Stompy got like a little bit too much with it.
Stompy, it gets hard to kill their creatures. But it's primarily Infect. Let's look at
Yeah.
the Infect creature base. Glistener Elf, common. Blighted Agent, common. And then we have to move a little to like Ichor Clawmer, common.
Yep.
It just gives that deck too much of a quick consistency.
Yeah. Isn't Blight Mamba common too?
Yes. Black Mamba is a common, a Rot Wolf is a common. Those are all the ones that Plague Stinger is also a common if you want to
Yep.
be in black instead of blue. And then other pump spells that are commons: Groundswell, Vines of the Vastwood, Mutagenic Growth.
Good old fashioned giant growth.
I mean, you have, I think like Seal of Growth is probably better than Giant Growth on average
Probably.
because you get to invest the mana a turn earlier.
Mhm.
You also there are Apostle's Blessing. You get to play
Yep.
Gataxian Probe so you know what's up. If you're in blue, you get to play Brainstorm to fix your draws with like the Evolving Wilds plus Ash Baron's mana base.
Yeah, it becomes very close to being like legacy level. In fact, just minus force of will.
I mean, you're minus counter spells, but you could kind of make up for that by playing Daze.
Oh yeah.
It becomes a very interesting discussion. But in my opinion, Invigorate probably too good for the format as well.
Yeah.
There was, I want to say 6 months ago, where there was a mono green infect deck that was doing actually pretty well. It was around the same era that the mono white heroic deck started doing well in the format.
Yeah.
So just the fact that it can already do well makes it a little bit risky to give them more tools.
Yeah, I saw a few Infect pilots at the Classic, but I think from like me walking around, I saw most of their matchups being against like a lot of creature decks like Mono Green Stompy, and I believe I saw a Infect Slivers matchup.
That does not seem
Um,
great for the infect deck, unless no, because they're all like mono green, so they don't have access to blighted agent.
yep. Um, and uh, lost my train of thought. Hold on.
Okay,
Oh, Infect could be better if they do go green blue and just add in a couple copies of like Slip Through Space to just get there against the creature decks, because I think creature decks matchups is his like main problem at this point.
is Slips Through Space better than Distortion Strike?
Distortion Strike is what, +1/+0 rebound,
Unblockable rebound.
unblockable. Um,
I think getting to
yeah,
do it twice is better than an extra random card.
yeah. I just try to think of like what gets played already in the format, like Shadow Rift. So Slip Through Space came to mind.
No, I understand that. All right, so that's kind of the invigorate thought. Absolutely not, and that's just looking at infect. I feel like there's other directions that invigorate can move.
Yeah.
We both experienced a lot of this card. Peregrine Drake.
Yeah.
Why is Peregrine Drake on this ban list, Josh?
Infinite mana. And then Kravex Torch to the face.
My favorite thing about Peregrine Drake is it's 3 months or whatever I want to say after Cloud of Fairies gets banned. It's not a long time. And then EMA comes out and Peregrine Drake is downshifted to a common. And it just destroys the whole format. I remember at
Yep.
that point in time, the top 6 decks on Goldfish were like Blue-Red Drake, Mono Blue Drake, Blue-White Drake, Jeskai Drake, Esper Drake, Draketron.
Yep.
It was just, what way do you want to abuse Peregrine Drake, and what was your win condition for abusing Peregrine Drake?
Mm-hmm.
I was very happy when this card got the axe, because it's what brought us into the golden age of Pauper that we've been in with this super diverse format.
Oh yeah, and also the fun fact: our mutual friend Ryan, the Peregrine Drake brand is the whole reason that Ryan both hates Pauper now and like refuses to play it, is because his favorite deck got banned.
Oh man, I can't play this. I win the game for free. Like, if he wants to do that thing, just play blue-white.
I know, but he refuses to like even like sit down and play Pauper with me. He just gets so salty over it.
It's
It's just like
ridiculous. And
yeah,
it's
it's
like,
just
your $20-$30 deck got banned. It's not like your modern deck got banned.
yeah, it's not like your all foil Splinter Twin deck got banned.
You see, the way that you said that sentence, it sounds like it's coming from experience.
Yeah, one of Sebastian's friends like just finished foiling out Splinter's Quinn, and then literally the same week it got banned.
You see, I was the other way, and I flipped my Splinter Twin deck a week before it got banned.
Oh, lucky you!
I know. But alright. Peregrine Drake, nowhere close to safe. It's Cloud Affairs on steroids. 5 mana, 2/3 flying. ETB untap up to 5 lands. So you can play it early with bounce lands and still make mana. You can just play it for free. If you have any familiar, it's +1 mana. It's so easy to go infinite with cards like Ghostly Flicker.
Oh yeah.
Because if you have a Drake and a Monomic Wall, you just go infinite with the Flicker. You don't need anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Drake will net itself 2 mana every time.
Yeah.
It's just beyond powerful for what it does. It deserves on here.
Yeah, I do not miss it.
Same for this next card. Temporal Fissure. 4 and a blue sorcery. Return target permanent to its owner's hand, Storm. Do you have any idea why this card's on the ban list?
Because you just basically overload Cyclonica Rift to their entire board, and then you win the next turn, kind of like with Dinrova Horror and Tron with Ghostly Flicker.
And again, this is in that old era, old bordered card, so its templating says permanent, not non-land permanent.
Yep.
This is 5 mana Boomerang, but you get to do it with Storm. And yeah, this card was just the most miserable thing to play against. If you think Ghostly Flicker or Dinrova Horror is miserable to play against, you have not got Temporal Fissured out of the game on turn 4. Because this card was legal, with Cloud of Fairies, Frantic Search, all these cards.
Oh gosh.
Like some of these cards, Cloud of Fairies, Frantic Search, and Temporal Fissure were on the same banned announcement, I want to say.
Okay.
People were getting like they weren't those Cloud of Fairies decks. Their win condition wasn't the Sage's Row Denizen thing. Their win condition was you don't get to play, and I'll attack you with my 1/1 flyer.
That's my favorite way to win.
Because it was easier to do the Ghostly Flicker loop to 10 times instead of to 50 times or whatever.
True.
But yeah, it was just absolutely miserable to play against. It is one of the least enjoyable cards, and Storm has been something they've been very aggressive at handling in Pauper, thank God.
Yeah.
And
That's one of the reasons I like Pauper so much, is because I don't really have to deal with Storm. And if I do, they're just doing it for like a Ulamog's Crusher or some sort of different payout.
Or you just get like the gimmicky Storm decks, which I don't mind losing to at all.
Right.
Like the Balustrade Spy decks or the Zubera Storm deck.
Balustrade Spy, how fun.
I don't mind if they win their 30%. Because I own the one land Spy deck, and it is a 30%.
Oh,
It is not consistent.
yeah. There's also like red black reanimator in Pauper that's really fun to play. Also very inconsistent.
The inconsistent decks are probably my favorite part about this format. But
Oh yeah.
one more card to talk about. To Professor not coming off. Not at all. Treasure Cruise. 7 in a blue, delve, sorcery, draw 3 cards. Why is this card actually on this ban list?
Anything that plays blue just gets card advantage against anything that doesn't play blue.
Well, I agree with that. We don't have fetch lands.
Yes,
We
we do have
do have
evolving wilds.
cheap cantrips. So we are able, like the mono blue Delver deck and the blue red Delver deck can fund this card.
Hmm.
But I'm not sure this is the 4 of in every island deck like it was in Pauper or in Legacy and Modern when it was legal.
It's probably 2 or 3, just similar to the way Gush is.
I feel like Gush wouldn't get played if Treasure Cruise was in the format.
True, because with Gush you put yourself back a couple of lands 99.9% of the time,
Yeah,
while
Cruise, you're
Treasure Cruise,
drawing an extra card over Gush, and it costs 1 mana instead of 0, but you're not setting yourself back to do it.
yeah, because when you're treasure cruising, the game has gone long enough for you to benefit from it.
I mean, the decks do start looking different. Um, the Jeskai deck that we were talking about on our last episode was using like Faceless Looting and Deep Analysis and Gitaxian Probe and all these cards to just gain like incremental advantages here and there. That deck would extremely benefit from a card like Treasure Cruise.
Oh yeah,
Um, and I feel like we'd see more Thought Scours getting played in a Treasure Cruise format. So it's
yeah,
definitely a dangerous card.
like blue black delve would become a thing where you just Gurmag Angler, treasure cruise, thought scour yourself.
I feel like that's a lot of delve threats. Like
Yeah.
Cruise, Angler, and the Bird, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just
And
feel
Hootie
like,
and the Mandrills.
yeah, I just feel like that's a lot. That's a lot of stress on your graveyard.
Yeah, you don't have to play all of them certainly, but
I just feel like for that deck, the creatures are on average better.
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I think of all these cards, and this is a weird statement to say, the Treasure Cruise is the safest card.
Yeah, I would say it's the safest card to come off, but I don't think it should because it does give too much power to blue decks.
It does give too much power to blue decks, which also already are what's dominating the format.
Yeah.
So the current ban list we're happy with. Probably shouldn't change. It's just an interesting discussion to have. Why they're here, what they're here for. So one thing I wanted to bring up on that topic is: do you think there's anything that might need to be banned, Pauper?
Personally, I don't think any of the cantrips need to go because they do cause the format to be so diverse. Like even Defender combo runs like Brainstorm and Preordain and all that fun stuff. But there has been a lot of discussion on whether like Delver needs to go because a lot of decks, including Is It Blitz, where the main idea of the deck is not to like gain tempo, it's to like burst you out. Even they play Delver just for it's a value creature.
Yeah, it's just so powerful at what it does.
Yeah.
So while I understand the not wanting to put any cantrips on here, I brought Preordain up as like kind of a starter for the discussion on our notes, just because it is per capita the most played card, other than actually amusingly Hydroblast and Pyroblast.
Yeah, it's in every single sideboard ever.
It's one of those two cards.
Exactly.
But yeah, Preordain is the most played main deck card.
Yeah, it's just because it's just a solid cantrip. Anything that plays blue will play that unless you're Tron.
And without untapped fetch lands, it's the best cantrip. Brainstorm isn't good unless you can fetch away the bad cards, and Ponder loses some of its value if you can't fetch away other cards.
Mm-hmm.
Still a good card, but it definitely loses a lot of its value.
Yeah. Well, Preordain like maintains it, if not gets more of it because of the scry.
So, do you think there's any action that could be taken against Tron to make it less degenerate. We see it currently holding a 10% share of the meta, according to Goldfish's statistics.
I mean, if you want to go really far out there, just ban Urza's Tower and then nothing works.
I understand that, but I don't think they'd want to kill the whole deck archetype.
Exactly. Any particular card, I guess it would just be because it's if you ban this, it would shut down the familiar deck a little bit too. If you ban Ghostly Flicker,
Ghostly, Ghostly Flicker has been an offender for so long, and I think they let it be because it branches into so many interesting archetypes, and it's the
hmm
only format where we ever get to see a card like this do something.
that's also true. But if you ban it, you get to play like you would have to have a blue-white variant because Momentary Blink.
Or you have to do
Um,
something like move to like the Fangreentron decks.
uh, my favorite.
Honest Tron.
Exactly.
Honest is in like every letter in the word honest is in a quote.
It's fine. It's fine. Just pop my star, gain 5 life. It's fine.
I mean, that is fine. I don't mind that. You're allowed to do that if that's the best game action you think you can do.
Yeah. Also, doesn't Fangrid Marauder say if a artifact is put in any graveyard?
Correct.
Oh yes, counter a Tog, my favorite card in
I
Pauper
have
now.
played the Fangreentron mirror before.
What?
And like we both have a Fangreen, and it's like stars popped, we gain 10, or each of us gain
we
5 or whatever. This is
that's
enjoyable. Nothing
that's
happens.
it's like group hug in Commander but in Pauper. It's great.
But yeah, I think Tron is definitely a deck that needs to always be on that watch list just because it's a very dangerous deck. But the format's still relatively healthy. Other than Delver and Tron, you have a really diverse meta, and those two decks are only combined taking up 20% of the share.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're both going for the no ban, I think, is what it looks like.
Yeah. You just gotta watch like Delver and Tron to see if it gets like a little bit too powerful, and then you knock it down a peg if it needs to.
Sounds good. So let's go ahead and move on to our challenges. So we're going to start with the first of the two challenges, which took place. This is last week's challenge, 10/21/2018,
hmm
with 5/6/0 deck lists. The 6/0 deck lists being Blue Red Control, 2 copies of Izzet Delver, a copy of Kadoltha Boros, and a copy of Mono Blue Delver. Notably, the Kadoltha Boros deck actually playing Kadoltha Rebirth.
Hello.
We have gone back to an aggro variant. No Palace Sentinels, 4 Kadoltha Rebirth, 4 Ichor Wellspring, 2 Rally the Peasants. This deck is trying to kill you. It is not trying to grind you into oblivion like normal red-white is.
I like this a lot.
I've always been a fan of the like hyper aggro variants of this deck, but I'm just such a fan of outplaying my opponent when I get the opportunity. And
Oh yeah, man.
the other one gets that.
He's just like, I feel superior now.
Mm-hmm.
You
And then
may
we have
die.
Entropy. I believe Entropy is the person that we talked about last week or last time, right? This name
Yeah.
is 6-0ing with the blue red control again. He is now playing 2 Archaeomancers on top of the 4 Augur Bolus. There's a Capsize in the mix, 1
Oh,
Ghostly
my
Flicker,
favorite.
1 Una's Grace. This list looks a lot more work went into this list. It looks like than the
Yeah,
last
he
one did.
went down a devious cover up.
Mm-hmm. No,
I
but
guess to go.
I really like this list. I really like what he's doing here. 4 Flame Slash, I really like in the format right now.
Definitely.
I do like his approach.
Yeah, kill all the mnemonic walls.
So moving on. Um, Nothing else all that special. Mono Blue Delver, stock. Mutagenic growth. Has mutagenic growth been stock in Mono Blue Delver recently?
It saw uh quite a few copies, if not a four of, maybe 6 to 8 months back. But then they mostly diverted away from it for copies of Deprive, like
Okay.
basically just more counter spells.
Yeah, this
So
6-0 list is on the mutagenic growths.
yeah, it migrating back to the mutagenic list. That means they're like the format's attempting to become faster to
Yeah, that
counter
I
the
feel
flicker stuff.
I feel like it's the counter Tron primarily.
Yeah, definitely, because anything that runs ghostly flicker, you counter it by just going faster.
And then 2 copies of Scred Delver, nothing special there.
Yeah.
Looking at the challenge from 10/14/2018, we see Mono Red Goblins, Inside Out, Is It Blitz, Is It Delver, and Rainbow Tron. The Goblins list, unfortunately, what is the card that we gushed about a whole
Uh,
bunch?
giant baiting.
No giant baitings to be found.
Also, no Street Wraith or Manamorphi.
Yeah, this is just normal mono red aggro. Jackal Familiar, Mog Conscripts, really bringing it back.
Oh yeah, man. 1 mana, 2/2s.
No, but I mean, it's mono red aggro. We all know what this deck looks like.
Yeah.
It's 8
Just
tickets
can't.
on MTGO right now, apparently.
Is it really? All right, cool.
I really just need to, like, this next paycheck, just buy the format, because it looks like I could do it for, like, $20 or something.
Right. With each passing deck that comes up, like for that Cthulhu Boros that was the aggressive
yeah.
variant, I start it because I want to buy it.
Yeah. I hate Moto, but it's, like, the only way to play Pauper.
Yeah. I'm afraid that my computer, being it's like an ancient dinosaur,
Moto is
what
also an ancient dinosaur, though.
true, but I still don't think my processor can handle can handle even Moto because it can barely handle Morrowind. So
That's fair. We see Inside Out taking a 6-0. It's actually been a while since Inside Out's been doing well. It
yeah,
looks
it's
like.
been a deck I've been kind of terrified of.
You see, I've never been afraid of this deck. The people that are really good at it are really good at it.
Mhm.
But for the most part, people pick it up because it's a weird combo deck and they just play games with it and think it's like just a deck that wins for them. But no, they have to be the ones that win the game.
Yeah. The main reason I've been afraid of it is solely because of circular logic. Because normally I'll win through some sort of edict effect,
Mm-hmm.
but that could be countered very easily.
My favorite thing about the card Tireless Tribes is it, and Inside Out, is it requires players that have knowledge of layers. And importantly here, and if you're planning on playing Inside Out, you need to listen to this. Inside Out switches target creature's power and toughness until end of turn. The way layers works is if there is a swap power toughness effect, it happens at the end of everything every time. And this is an until end of turn effect, and that doesn't make sense all the time. But so if you activate Tireless Tribe after an Inside Out, it's actually getting +4/+0.
That's weird.
If there is an Inside Out cast on a Tireless Tribe, you cannot save it with its own ability. So Inside Out and Tireless Tribe is always lightning boltable.
I honestly didn't know that. So basically, you're telling me I can disfigure a
Correct.
tireless tribe.
You should not be afraid of a Tireless Tribe, is what I'm telling you.
Okay.
And
Cool.
I think it's interesting that Dive Down is the choice because it's +3/+0 for the deck whenever it's cast. And hexproof. It being hexproof is important, and I do like its integration here. I
Yeah,
almost want
it's
to see if there's room for more copies.
um. Now I'm looking at the deck. You might cut a copy of Piracy Charm to do it, but gaining island walk is
Mhm.
very prevalent
Piracy Charm
for the
being able to kind of be an extra um,
Shadow Rift.
Shadow Rift in island matchups. Also, against a shock effect or a disfigure, it does give your Tireless Tribe -1/+2 if there's an
True.
Inside Out.
Huh.
Because boy, power toughness swaps are the most confusing part of the layer system.
Gosh. See, if I ever face this deck at like a challenge or another classic, I'm gonna have to call the judge so
Oh,
much.
you please, if you play against this in paper, ask a judge to explain how layers works to you.
Yeah, just be like, okay, I know what you're playing, judge.
Judge, layers.
Let me know about all of the layers.
Yeah, moving on from Tireless Tribes, we see a pretty stock looking list of Teamer Blitz or a Blue Red Blitz. Nothing all that special going on in that list.
See, you've got Teamer Blitz in your head now.
Yeah, I do. Um, or Rainbowtron is Dinrova horroring. One crop rotation hanging out in the mix. Nothing all that special past that looks like. So yeah, that is our EXO deck list for the last 2 weeks. So that's 1 blue-red control, 3 blue-red Delver, a Kadoltha Boros, mono blue Delver, Goblins, Inside Out, Is It Blitz, and Rainbowtron. Pretty descriptive of the format. It's kind of surprising to only see 1 copy of Rainbowtron, but that deck is really easy to beat if you're on like the Delver side.
Oh yeah. Plus, I don't think a lot of people are going to play it online because of how many clicks.
Also, just like your games are so long.
Yeah.
So there's the challenge. There's one deck I wanted to talk about in the challenge, though. Let me make sure which one was it from. The 10-21-8 2018 challenge. If we scroll down to the 4-2s, you get a blue-black deck by a Mr. Page.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about playing mono black and splashing blue. And then a week later, someone plays mono black and splashes blue and goes 4-2 in a challenge. And this deck is a gem.
Mm-hmm. I believe, to quote, I guess myself here, when you showed me this deck, I said, "From this rock I shall build my church."
It is a very interesting list. So your normal mono black creature base: 4 Kambaji Witches, 4 Chittering Rats, 2 Crypt Rats, 2 Phyrexian Rager, 2 Grey Merchant, 4 Mole Drifter.
I like it. It basically serves as like more disfigure / dead weights against Delver essentially, while it also gains you card advantage.
Mm-hmm. No, but it's a very, very good card. I mean, Mole Drifter is actually the card I would go for banning before Ghostly Flicker.
Really? How interesting.
It is a bold statement, but I think this card is too good for Pauper.
So, is it solely because you can evoke it?
There's just too many options to it. It gets to play Divination. It gets to be a very good creature in control decks. It's just so much value. It's obscene with Ghostly Flicker. It's really good with Tron lands. There's like no... Delver would play this if they didn't have Spire Golem.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Affinity for Islands. Such a good card.
But alright, moving on from that discussion. Spells, Disfigure, Chainer's Edict, Consume Spirit.
I didn't know this card existed till you showed me this deck list, and it makes me so excited.
1 black X sorcery. Spend only black mana on X. It deals X damage to target creature or player. You gain X life. So it gets to be your Tendrils of Corruption.
Yeah.
But
as well as being also corruption.
But yeah, you have to pay more for it.
Yeah. But in this deck, you're running 4 bounce lands, which can get you to even bigger mana. And since you're running 3 copies of it, you can just get there over 2 turns or play Gary into Consume Spirit. And you also have a copy of Death Denied.
Oh yeah, I love me a Death Denied. This was a Modern Masters limited All-Star. As in All-Star, I mean almost always cut as your 23rd card. But
hey, but at instant speed, I can get back every single creature that you've killed. And if you have enough mana with this deck, you can just play them all down and then maybe even a Gary in the same turn. And just get a bunch of burst damage in there.
Yeah, because if you do have like multiple bounce lands, you can't use the blue mana towards consuming spirit past the first blue mana. The mana cost on this card is really weird.
Yeah.
Black 1X.
Yeah, Crypt Rats has a similar like clause on it with the X.
The only black mana clause.
Yeah.
Moving on, you have the Death Denied, which picks up your Bull Drifters and your Grey Merchants.
Makes
I'm not
that Evoke
sure
feel better.
Death Denied is better than the buyback on Earth.
Yeah, Disturb Burial, I do like it more, but it being instant speed does give it kind of a combo twist to it.
Mm-hmm. I can definitely feel that. And also being able to pick up multiple at the same time. Unfortunately, nothing to splice onto it. It is an arcane spell. 2 Guest Verdict, 1 Wrench Mind, a Capsize,
alternate win cons,
and then 2 Probe. I love
I really like the Probe in there. Because before we saw this deck, like I said, I was kind of like dabbling with it, brainstorming how I would do this deck, and 2 to 3 copies of Probe just keep popping up.
Probe, when Blue-Black Gurmag Angler Control was doing really well at the beginning of the summer, we were seeing Probe go from 1 copy to 2 copies to 3 copies, along with the 3 mana bounce a permanent and then they discard a card.
I remember the art, but I forgot the name of it.
Yeah, I know the exact art of that card, but I remember like playing Moto League with Kadolfa Boros and my opponent bouncing my Boros Garrison, and I'm like, I lost.
Right, it feels terrible. It's called Recoil, right?
Yes, Recoil. Yeah, it's Dinrova Horror for half the mana cost and no creature.
Yeah, because basically I was running 2 to 3 copies of Probe, 2 Recoil as like kind of like the blue-black spells with 1 Notion Rain, and then just your normal kind of stock mono black list. I wasn't running Multi Drifter, but I will be now.
But yeah, Probe is a very powerful card. 2 in a blue sorcery, kicker, 1 in a black. Draw 3, discard 2, and if you kick it, they also discard 2. So it becomes 5 mana, draw 3, discard 2, plus Mind.
Yeah.
Very, very powerful. A full playset of Dimir Signet.
Gotta get that big mana for Consume Spirit, man, and and the Death Denied combo thing like I was talking about a minute ago.
Yep, and then you have 2 Deadweights, just extra Disfigures. I'm not sure Deadweight is that much better than Disfigure.
I think he's probably mainly scared of a Tog.
It also handles a Spire Golem infinitely.
That's also true.
Yeah, I can see the Atog thing. Land base, 4 Bajuku bucks.
Yeah, that was a little bit much. When I saw that, I was like, this absolute unit over here.
This guy is just tired of losing to Tortured Existence.
He's like, I refuse.
And then the mana base otherwise pretty stock. Sideboard, what is an Ukiba Gang Shinobi?
Okay, so I've wanted to dabble with this card, but I always thought it was a little bit too slow all the time. It's a constant mind rot.
Okay, so you pick up like your Grey Merchant? Or you pick up your Chittering Rats, and then for 7 mana, you discard 3 cards.
The best. 1 goes to the top of the deck, sir. But
it's the same thing. 7 mana. Your 7 mana play.
Yeah, because me and Lance were like joking around one time about building just a mono black discard everything deck. And Okuba Gang Shinobi was like a 3 of in that one.
That's an interesting card.
Yeah, because there's also the 2 mana 1/1 rat that makes him discard a card. There's a lot of cards that make you discard.
There's a new one. There's Old Ravenous Rats and there's Bugler Rats now too.
Oh boy, mono black rats. Let's go.
But okay, moving on. That deck is really interesting, and I'd like to see it played. I'd like to see it in action sometime. So if you want to go ahead and put that together, I'd be very interested in running it through a gauntlet. But
hold on, give me 1 second.
Okay.
Pause. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's all right. It
I forgot
happens.
to tell my grandmother we were recording, and she was like banging on my door.
It's alright. I didn't hear any of that, but that's all right. So moving on from the challenges, as I would like to see the blue black deck in action at some point. We have the leagues to talk about, and we're just going to go through the leagues real quick because majority of the leagues are decks we've seen 100 times. And weird. There are some weird outliers though. The leagues
Yes,
that
and
were
I'm excited.
posted on 10/17/2018. So first we're going to start with Shaka 141's Defender combo. It's been a little while since this deck's actually produced some results. Most interesting card that I haven't seen actually being played from it is 2 Adventurous Impulses.
Yeah, this is actually the list I copied from to build Defenders this week.
Sweet.
Um, I really like the Adventurous Impulse in there because you basically you choose it over Commune with the Gods
Okay.
because it doesn't put stuff in your graveyard.
Is it better than Ponder?
I think so because you don't have to put it back on top if it's bad. It goes on the bottom.
Okay. That's a reasonable discussion. For this deck, is Evolving Wilds better than Ash Barrens? Because there is a real discussion there. I guess everything you're doing is at sorcery speed.
Yeah. Also, the only thing it kind of throws off is doing your just the one mana drop stuff, your Adventurous Impulse, your Preordain, your Jotty Offshoot. But you also are also running like the Thornwood Falls anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So the Evolving Wilds kind of sticks to what speed you're trying to go.
Yeah, and it looks like, I mean, your most important cards are on kind of 2, with Wall of
Yeah.
Roots and Overgrown Battlement, which I would think are the most important cards, other than obviously an Axebane Guardian.
Mm-hmm. Because they both block anything your opponent's trying to do like really early and generate you tons of mana.
Yeah, absolutely. With it being a Monomic Wall Drifter deck, I'm actually kind of surprised to see no copies of Ghostly Flicker and just not one hanging out anywhere, but I guess it's not all that surprising to me.
Yeah, because they're going for the infinite mana from Freed from the real, really.
Mm-hmm. Well, I understand that, but I mean, that engine just makes sure you hit these other cards.
True. I wouldn't be surprised if I or any other pilot of this deck starts doing it. Like, I would personally replace the compulsive research
Yep,
for it.
that's what I was about to say, is the one compulsive research looks a little out of place.
Yeah, because even compulsive research in Rainbow Tron, I've seen like be clunky, and I don't even want to cast it half the
Oh
time.
yeah, it's not that great of a card.
Replace it with Frantic Search.
Sure. Safe. But alright,
Very safe.
otherwise, we had the discussion about the Portcullis Vine, and you said that you had some games with this deck, and Jotty Offshoot is definitely needed.
Yeah, just the incremental life gain you get from it uh, just gives you that amount of time to get to your combo. And also, if you didn't have the Jotty Offshoot, you would have 0 hope against burn.
That makes complete sense to me. Alright, so moving on from Defendo combo to Ion Alien and his Is It Unreal Boilerworks.
This makes me excited.
When I was pulling up the challenges earlier in the leagues to figure out what decks to talk about, and I saw this. This is beauty. This is what beauty is. So I'm going to talk everyone through it real quick. So you have 8 enchantments, 4 Wind Zendikon, and 4 Freed from the Real. Wind Zendikon has a 1 mana enchantment aura that enchants a land. The enchanted land is a 2/2 blue elemental creature with flying. It's still a land, and whenever the land is put into a graveyard, you pick the land up. So 1 blue makes your land a 2/2 flyer. And Freed from the Real, we also just looked at in the Defender build deck. 2 and a blue, enchantment aura, enchants creature. You can pay a blue to tap enchanted creature or a blue to untap enchanted creature. So here's where it gets weird.
If it wasn't real weird already.
If you put a Wind Zendikon on an Is It Boilerworks, and then give it a Freed from the reel, it taps for a blue and a red, and then you pay a blue to untap it. And then you make another red, and you make infinite red mana. So this deck is a mono blue deck that plays 2 red spells. Cover X Torch and Flame Wake Invoker. Both of which you can spend arbitrary amounts of mana to deal arbitrary amounts of damage to your opponent. It's specifically red mana. And then you have cards like Dizzy Spell, which is a 1 blue instant that gives target creature -3/-0, but it transmutes for 1 blue. And you also have the Drift of Phantasms, which is your 3 mana transmute card. So you have 4 copies of a card that tutor for each half of your combo, and also the way to spend your infinite mana.
Yeah. I'm kind of surprised that something didn't now aggro this, because your 5 creatures are your essentially combo pieces. Because
Also, just what were his 4 matches?
Yeah, I want to know.
How are there no dazes hanging out in this deck to protect your combo?
That's also true. Maybe you just wait for them to tap out. Also, like Kravik's Torch has that little clause on it where it like interrupts to target that spell costs 2 more to play,
Mm-hmm.
which
Well, I mean,
I forgot existed.
so I guess no one knows what you're doing, so they think you're this weird control deck until you transmute for a piece, and they already know you transmuted for it because you have to transmute at sorcery speed.
Yeah.
And like Wind Zendikon is a Boilerworks is so fragile because it's a 2/2.
Yeah. I just wish the Genjus from Kamigawa were common. That would make it less less
Just
bad.
what were his 5 matches?
Maybe some kind of like slow tempo-y stuff.
But like I actually can't think of a single deck in Pauper he could have played against 4 times and won. Okay, maybe he nut drew 5 times against mono white heroic.
Mono Heroic might be too fast for that, but
That's the only non-interactive deck. It usually hits for 7 on turn 2 and then another like 7 on turn 3. So if you can
Yeah.
turn 4, can you turn 4 in this deck? No, because your combo pieces cost 5 to start.
Well, I'm also wondering why it plays 4 freed from the reel. Like, do you
It's
gain?
so that you can naturally draw them.
Okay. So then you can play your Drift of Phantasms as just a blocker.
Or you can transmute them for the Flame Wake Invoker.
That's also true.
But boy, this is a pile.
I want to know its matchups. It runs all of its counterspells in the board. Like,
Yeah, I don't understand the sideboard either. Like, what is a turn aside? you're looking at
a permanent you control. So it's Outwit, but with a permanent and not you.
Is this better than Dispel?
I don't know. I would go 4 Dispel before I go 1 turn aside, but I don't know.
He has 3 Giga Drows, so that could help in the aggro matchup.
Definitely. You can just tap them down and then go off the next turn too on their lands if you're facing control.
He has a plan. And Giga Drows is like an uncounterable tap all players' lands too.
Yeah, because this is replicate and not like overload.
And every single land he has produces blue mana, so he actually just gets to tap all and replicate. And then we're on all the cantrips. We're on Ponder, Preordain, Brainstorm, and some Impulses. I'm not sure these are better than Gitaxian Probes for his deck.
That's true. You do get a lot more card selection if you're looking for a specific part of your combo, though.
That's fair. No, this deck it's a work of art. And it might get bought.
Yeah, I might just pick this up just to see how it plays,
Cause,
and like maybe it just out grinded Kadoltha Boros without somehow getting like bolted or fire bolted
so like
or any of its removal.
I can see that, and I might just pick this up because what do I need to buy? A set of Wind Zendikons and Freed from the Reels? Other than that,
Yeah.
Drift of Phantasms. I don't have any of those. But no, I pretty much have this whole pile.
Yeah, like see, with all the decks that I tried to build for Pauper, I don't want to have to like move any cards over.
Oh, I have like extra sets of Ponder Preordain and Brainstorm just chilling on the desk.
Nice. I need to just do that someday. It's just like,
Preordain's a
yes, I would like
hard
20
one.
copies of each.
I have a box of Ash Barons that I bought when 25 came out.
Oh, when it like plummeted down and then went
Yeah,
back up.
just
Nice.
an actual box of Ash Barons. But
Right. Yeah, the most expensive cards in this deck are Preordain,
an
Drift of Phantasms,
expedition map.
and an Expedition Map. Yeah.
All right, so moving on. One last deck I want to talk about. This is from the other challenge, the challenge from a week prior, or no, the more recent one, the 1024 challenge, or 50 lists rather. And this is USP dudes, all in affinity. So this is Disciple of the Vault, Atog, Ethereum Sculptor, and then like Chromatic Star, Springleaf Drum, Terrarian, Ichor Wellspring, Prophetic Prism. This deck's
This
trying to
reminds
kill you.
me. Yeah. This reminds me of like um anything that runs Car Clan Ironworks
No,
in
yeah,
modern.
no. This is Pauper Clan Ironworks. That is exactly what I thought of when I looked at this deck.
Yep, because all of its lands are artifacts besides the one you can cycle.
So if you have a hand that's Disciple of the Vault, Ethereum Sculptor, Atog, Springleaf Drum, and then Star cards, this deck can turn to you,
Oh yeah,
which is beautiful.
because the Disciple Vault is fucking gross.
Teamer Battle Rage should be a second fling.
That's true.
Perilous Research seems too cute.
Draw 2 cards and sacrifice a permanent. I guess it'll just combo with your Chromatic Stars, your Ichor Wellsprings.
Terrarian. I mean, it combos
Yeah.
with those cards, but I think this deck wanting to do this all-in thing should just be on like 3 to 4 flings.
Yeah.
But no, this deck
Also,
is.
Disciple of Vault, another card that's too good for Modern.
Oh, I mean, it's playable in Modern.
Yeah.
You can cast them, they just don't do anything because you don't have artifact lands.
Exactly.
But no, this deck is very interesting. I wanted to just bring it up because it's a different approach on Affinity. Instead of just trying to 4 your opponent to death, this deck is trying to 20 your opponent to death.
Oh yeah. This is essentially better Zubera Storm.
Bold.
Bold. Yes. You're better than Kamigawa commons that trigger off each other.
You're better than a deck. Okay, I actually built that deck. I have it on the desk.
I wanted to at some point.
It
just
is.
as like a, just to see.
It is a pile.
Yeah.
It is not very good.
Yeah, what is it? Unnatural Stamina? The thing
Yeah,
that brings it back?
you're on Unnatural Stamina and Undying Evil and Unearth.
Yes.
And
But,
then you're like Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, Coaling the Weak.
ugh. Okay, so I think it was M19 or Dominario that gave you essentially another copy of Stamina.
Something like that. But here's the thing. So, 12 ways to bring it back. Oh no, because you're also on Exhume. So 16
Yep.
ways to bring it back. 12 ways to make mana. 4 blue Zubs. 4 Viscera Seer, so you can actually Zub. You need to be on is it Muddle the Mixture is the transmute for 2.
Yeah.
You're on 4 of those. There's no room for cantrips.
Yep, you just have to have one in your hand and just hope the blue Zubera just gets you there.
Yeah, the deck just has to hope. It is the most inconsistent, medium quality combo that fizzles half the time. And also, if your red Zubera is in the bottom chunk of your deck, you deck yourself.
Yep,
Zubera is a mandatory trigger.
it's the greatest. It is the cleric of Pauper cards, Pauper decks.
It's just not good. But all right.
My D&D joke fell flat. I'm sad.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
Somebody giggled at it somewhere.
My knowledge of D&D is pretty low. I'm more of a non-D&D systems RPG player. But
I gotcha.
that's a discussion for a different time.
Yeah,
So
goes all in, barely does anything.
That was the Prince of the Pauper podcast. We had some ban list discussion and then our talk about the current decks. We'll figure out some fun, interesting discussions to talk about next week. But last quick little thing. If you were to play in a challenge this coming week, what would it be?
I think I would try, because I've been fiddling with that old Ross Miriam Naya tokens list we talked about last week.
The Presence of Gond deck?
Yeah. I've been fiddling around with its mana base so it isn't as clunky. And honestly, I would really enjoy playing that in a challenge, and I'll probably play it at SCG Winter.
It's SCG Winter. If we don't have a major event, right? It's just like side events.
Yeah, it's just challenges for us.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, but it's mainly because they're doing, I believe the reasoning was cash tournaments, because I was, like I said, emailing Jared Silva about it.
It's harder for cash tournaments to be this format.
Yeah. He said that more than likely for the next SCG Con, like for the summer again, it's going to be back to a Pauper Classic sort of deal.
Okay.
And
so we get one event a year.
Woo. Maybe Channel Fireball will pick up the torch a little bit. That'd be interesting, because they've been doing like Pauper Challenge-esque things. They just call it different.
Yeah, the like 6 rounds top 8 events where XO players don't get to be in the top 8.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they work.
That was something that happened at GP Vegas. Like XO players, the PTQ weren't part of the top
8. Was there that many XO players?
Yeah.
Whoa. All right.
Yeah. So you would so you want to play something like the Naya Presence of Gond deck?
Yeah. Because you just flashback rally the peasants, kind of like in the aggressive Kadolta Boros deck, and then you just win from there.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're like losing ground in that way, you can just oops, I win, which just feels great.
Yeah, definitely. No, I can understand that. If I were to play, I've been doing a lot of theory crafting, and I would figure out a list of the Jeskai Seeker of the Way, Faithful Looting, Deep Analysis deck.
Ooh, that seems fun.
I really like that deck.
Yeah, that brings me back to the days of Standard with like Ascendancy.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, I love that.
But yeah,
because you ran Raise the Alarm just for value.
Yeah, that deck is a Raise the Alarm deck too. I think it's on like 2, but yeah, it's a very interesting deck, and I liked it a lot. And that's something that I would kind of mess around with. So again, that has been the Princes of Pauper podcast for the week. If you can think of anything that you'd want us to talk about for next week, feel free to tweet us at Princes of Pauper on Twitter, or myself at Necros the King. Or do you have a Twitter, Josh?
An ancient one.
You should revive your Twitter, Josh.
Yeah, I'll probably just create a new one, because I, for the life of me, will not be able to remember that password.
Oh no, I understand.
Yeah, I'll probably just make one. I'll probably call it the Chittering Rat or something.
But other than that, we appreciate anyone for coming out and listening to us. And as time goes on, hopefully all these quality problems get fixed.
Right.
I know I'm going to start saving towards like a good microphone. That is for my current plan.
Yeah. Since I grabbed that second job at GameStop, they're starting for like the holiday season, starting to get like snowball mics in. Might pick up one of those with my discount.
Nice. Pick me up one for the discount. I'll pay you back for it.
Right.
All right. But again, that is it for us. Thank you, anyone who has come to join us, and we will see you guys in 2 weeks.